Rejection is probably one of the hardest things that we can face because no one ever really teaches you how to deal with it. I went through it with Facebook and Lyft, so I know exactly what it feels like. It's awful. You set this big goal, you get so close, and you just miss out on it. So what I'm going to tell you about rejection is that it's okay to be upset. I was upset. It was a really bad feeling, but you can't let it get to you. You need to just give yourself a set amount of time. So honestly, anywhere from 1 to 3 days to just really mope around, feel bad for yourself. But you need to realize that this isn't going to change anything because you still don't have a PM position. You need to put your head back down and you need to get back to grinding and you need to work really hard to figure out how you can get out of this problem. But there's really 3 main things that I suggest that you can do after you get rejected. So 1, the first thing that I suggest you do after getting rejected is ask for feedback. Email your recruiter and ask them for feedback on what you did wrong and what you can do better. This can be incredibly valuable to figuring out why you were rejected and what you can do better the next time. It's not all companies are going to be able to give you feedback because they want to avoid legal ramifications, but the worst they can say is no. So always make sure you ask for feedback. So 2, let's say you interviewed with your dream company, which was Microsoft or Google, but you didn't get the PM role. The second thing that you can do is ask to be considered for other positions. This most likely is only going to be possible if you got to an on-site interview, but it's always worth asking. I have a bunch of friends that did this. I had a friend who got a Google APM on-site, didn't get it, but he has to be considered for other positions, and now he's doing product strategy for Google, so there's a good chance he can switch to product manager in the future. I had a friend who didn't get PM at Microsoft, but they were offered an internal consulting role. I had one friend who actually interviewed with Google 21 times and just kept moving from software engineering to APM to TPM to now he's a project manager. So if you get rejected, ask to be considered for other positions. There's always a chance that there's a team who's willing to take you and they can find a position that fits your skill set. So 3rd is try to get reconsidered. This is kind of a hard one to approach, but this is what happened in my personal experience, and I touched about this on before, but the first time I applied to Uber, I actually got rejected right away. And I was pretty upset. I had gotten interviews with all the other companies I applied for, and I was kind of surprised too. I told one of my friends, and he ended up sending me up with a phone call with a product manager at Uber. And he told me, he's like, just don't tell him you got rejected. Just talk to him and see how it goes. So we have a 30-minute phone call. We hit it off. It was fantastic. It was great. And at the end, I asked him, I was like, oh, what APM programs do you recommend applying to? And he's like, Uber should be top of your list. Number 1, it's a phenomenal program. And I told him, I was like, I actually got rejected from Uber. His response was, well, you seem like a perfect candidate. Send me your resume. Let me talk to the recruiting team for you. 2 days later, the recruiting team sends me an apology email saying they must have overlooked my application. So really what the takeaway from there is, just because they say no, it doesn't really mean no. After I got rejected by Lyft for my case, I still emailed them asking if I could submit another case, because the worst thing that they're going to say is no, and they might admire your courage to ask for another interview, so they might be more than willing to make sure that you get an interview the next time. So there's not one straightforward approach, but try to get reconsidered. You never know what could happen.